did.
Yeah, where did you notice like changes in the mood?
Well, we knew that like at the beginning it kind of started out sad, and then she got excited about having the freedom and the change in lifestyle, and then couldn't really tell at the end. I guess it was confusion and overwhelming when she found out that he was alive.
Yeah. Quite the twist at the end, huh?
Yeah.
I have a lot of students who are like, whoa, what happened? I don't.
Well, yeah. Definitely confusion.
So I did, let's see where it is. I pulled up annotation. I think it's this one. That I did while I was in my, I have my fake, nope, not that. My fake student account that I use. I am Groot. It's a very good student account. Which I had it pulled up just a second ago, but I must have accidentally closed it when I was moving stuff around. Where are you, Groot? Ah, this should be my annotations. Okay, so you know that there's like 100 million ways to annotate a thing. And when I was reading through this again, because of course I reread it time, I noticed a lot of weather imagery. So I chose a color to highlight all of the weather imagery and like sky and stuff like that. So I made myself a little key at the top of my annotations. And so green is new life, orange is foreshadowing, yellow is weather imagery. General notes is like a peachy color, unusual words are blue, and then I did the theme in purple.
Okay.
Pinky purple, purpley pinky. So I did note, which if you saw my other video, I already started like at the top of it, talking about how Mrs. Mallard is only addressed by her husband, like by her married name and not by her first name, which could kind of be an indication of like that lack of freedom or individuality that they were talking about in this time period. You know, this is kind of where the women's movement started and people started talking about women's roles in society and in the home and such. So, oh, hey, we've got a new person. Hello, Cole. Are you there? Are you muted? Let's see. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can make it big while I'm sharing my screen. Can you hear us, Cole? Aha! There, I saw it come on. Hey, Cole.
Hello.
Hey, welcome. We just started talking about the story, about the annotations of it. So what were your initial impressions, like when you read the story through the first time? What'd you think?
It was, at first it was like a little bit creepy to me, honestly.
Okay. What made it?
It was kind of just like the twist at the very end where the husband comes back and then the lady just faints and dies.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Right. It's very macabre, right? Very dark. So I was telling Haley, we've talked about annotating things before, and there's like so many ways to annotate a thing. I was sharing my annotation that I did for this short story, and I made myself a color code key at the top, focusing mostly on new life and foreshadowing and weather imagery, and then like some other stuff is thrown in there. So we had just kind of come down a little bit and started looking at the weather imagery. And if you go through the story, you see it's like storm of grief, delicious breath of rain, patches of blue sky, clouds, spring life. Excuse me a second. Sorry, my 5-year-old needed help finding a toy.
Ah.
So when we've got the weather imagery, but we also have this green like new life. So I highlighted where it says there's an open square and the tops of the trees were a quiver with spring life. And again, that thought of the delicious smell of the rain, a peddler like crying out below and people singing. So like all of these images to me bring the thoughts of new life, right? And she's noticing these things right after she finds out that her husband is dead. So there is some irony there, right? And Cole, it's a little bit like, why are you so happy? You just found out your husband's dead, right? It seems a little bit
Definitely.
odd. But also for foreshadowing, though, we have here where it says through the clouds that had piled up. So like there is this image of darker clouds and the window is facing west. Why would the window facing west be foreshadowing?
Is the sun?
Yeah, what about the sun?
I can't remember if it rises or sets in the west.
It sets in the west.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So if the writer was trying to continue these images of new life, then her window should face east, because that would be dawn, that would be the sun rising, that would be new beginnings. But her window faces west, which is like the end of something, sunset. So foreshadowing. And then, so still this idea of her not as like a full human, she's compared to a child. You have a simile here that says, as a child who has cried itself to sleep, continuously sobs in its dreams. So again, the infantilization of women. And then her face is described as it's bespoke with lines of repression. So this is where we begin to see that maybe the relationship between the husband and wife is not equal, and that she's feeling like held down or reduced, right? Here's another reference to the weather, blue patches of sky, patches of blue sky. And so here is one of the most ominous paragraphs, I think. I'm going to read this paragraph, and you'll see that I highlighted a lot of it in orange. There was something coming to her, and she was waiting for it fearfully. What was it? She did not know. It was too subtle and elusive to name, but she felt it creeping out of the sky, reaching toward her through the sound, sense, color that filled the air. So those words, like that word choice, that's a lot of dark, creepy words, right? Like fearfully and elusive and creeping. And I just see like this image of like some sort of monster coming towards her and like reaching out towards her, when she initially is like very happy looking out the window and hearing all these beautiful and happy things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you guys remember what this is actually? This isn't actually referring to her husband reappearing. Do you know what this is referring to here?
Is it referring to like her heart attack?
No, but see, that's the thing. I feel like it could be a double meaning. Like it could be that her husband's coming and she's going to die, but it's actually, this is the feeling she has right before she accepts her freedom. So it's also the idea that being free and responsible for yourself is also scary. It's exciting and gives you life, but it is a scary thing too. So both things at the same time. And she tried to fight it, but she was powerless. Again, like another word that shows her lack of power. 2 white, slender hands, so she's weak. But eventually freedom overtakes her and her eyes become bright. And so if we look at this sentence here, her eyes are keen and bright, her pulse beats fast, her coursing blood is warm. So when she recognizes this freedom, she's like has this life. She comes to life. Right? Any questions? I'll keep going. So here we have a paradox, monstrous joy. Remember, paradox is when two things that seem opposite, but then they, as you think about it, it makes more sense. So the question is, like, is she a monster? Is she evil? Is she bad because she's happy that her husband is dead? Also, the joy is so big and overtaking. So what do you think, guys? Do you think that she's a bad person because she's actually kind of celebrating his death?
I do think it's kind of strange that like she's like super happy that he's dead, but I think that like kind of the way it was perceived was like it's like she was kind of being held back by him all these years, and now she's finally like free. So it's kind of like justified.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily that she's excited about that. She's excited about finding herself and a new person within her own body.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree. So the text says she knew she would weep again. So she's going to mourn for her husband. It's not that she's not going to mourn for him. But just in this moment, she's starting to realize the opportunity for freedom. And then here we have some descriptions, because so far all we know is this guy's name and that he's the husband. We don't know how he treats her. We don't know like their relationship really. But he's described as having kind and tender hands. So that's good, right? This is an example of synecdoche, where a part of something represents the whole. So his hands, the hands of the husband, represent the husband as a whole person. And it also says that he never looked at her except with love. So he was not an abusive person, not in the traditional way of being abusive. Like, it's not that he hit her or yelled at her. She admits herself that he only looked at her with love. So it's not that. That's not the thing. Like, it's not that he was a bad guy, quote unquote, right? So we come on down. But here's some insight, and I think Cole and Haley, coming back to what you were saying, it says she would live for herself. There would be no more powerful will bending hers. So I think that this is where she's saying that she feels controlled by her husband, and this is why she is happy, because his will has been bending hers. All right.
Kind
And
of like she's been like saying yes to all of his things and just kind of ignoring herself.
yes, exactly right. Just always letting him have the last word and doing whatever he wants and all of those things. And that would be an expectation of this society, this time frame, which was 1854, 1864, something like that. It's just expected that the wife falls in line, do what the husband says. This is a very powerful sentence, I think. There would be no powerful will bending hers in that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. So the author's not even saying just men. She's saying that people don't have a right to impose their will on other people, right? And that's a pretty progressive thought if you think about the time frame and those sorts of things. She's not limiting that, yeah. So here we have a sentence which is a stated theme. So the author is straight up telling us what the theme is. So the sentence reads, a kind intention or a cruel intention made the act seem no less a crime. So what do you think the theme is if we're saying that, if we read this sentence, what do you think the theme would be? Just a guess.
Good versus evil kind of thing.
Good. Well, so we're saying what intention means, like what you mean to, or how you feel about it, right? So whether it's kind or cruel doesn't matter. It's still a crime to control somebody else, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I think that this theme here is, regardless of your motive, controlling somebody else is wrong. So I didn't put it in because I didn't want to like, oh, I think it thinks it has me as me instead of as Groot. My imaginary student account. Oh, now I'm Groot. I think I'm Groot now. So I can edit my comment. Ha! I do like being able to do my annotations in Google. It seems a lot easier, and it's easier to grade y'all's than to have a bunch of like paper annotations. So we're approaching the end, but she had loved him sometimes, so we definitely know that she loved him. And then here's our second statement of theme, which is, what could love count for in the face of this possession of self-assertion, the strongest impulse of her being? So what do we think this theme is? What could love count for in the face of this possession of self-assertion?
So it's kind of, I guess she's like saying that like if someone's controlling you, there's not really, love doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly right. Yes. So, I'm going to just phrase what you said, which is exactly right, a little bit differently, which is freedom is more important than love. And that's a pretty big statement, I would say, to make. And there are probably people who would debate it with us, like if freedom is more important or if love is more important. What do y'all think?
I'm a freedom person, knowing that if you're controlled by other people, like finding love comes from knowing yourself first. So if you're not free, then you're not going to find true love.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. All right, cool. And here we finally, on page 2, find out the first name of our protagonist, Louise. But you notice she's not called by her first name until after she has this epiphany about freedom and independence. So in the first paragraph, she's called Mrs. Mallard when she's still like in that being controlled idea. And then after she's like, whoa, freedom, I have this opportunity, we see that she's addressed as Louise. So even the switch with her name shows a little more freedom there. And she's calling freedom is the elixir of life. So freedom is life. So the author really wants us to get this theme. She has explicitly stated it more than once. So it's not, implicit is when you kind of have to dig it out and it's implied. Explicit is when they straight up say it. So saying that freedom is the elixir of life, to me, that's pretty much straight up saying this is the theme. We have some more images of freedom here. Open window, spring days, summer days, some more weather images that come through the story. And then we have, she breathed a quick prayer that life might be long. It was only yesterday she thought with a shudder that life might be long. So now she's praying that it would be long, and yesterday she was sad that it might be long. What would we call that as a literary device?
Irony?
That's right. Yes. Irony, situational irony. And it's even compounded further because we've already read the story once before we came through and did our annotations. So we already know she's going to die. So now it's like super, super ironic because we know she really wants to live now, and we know in just a couple of paragraphs she's going to die. So, bump, bump. Okay. Feverish triumph. So these are more images of life, and like her eyes are shining. We have an allusion to the goddess of victory. So she has triumphed. What do you, well, first of all, I did a search about the goddess of victory. Did either of you like search it?
No.
I mean, it's an allusion, of course, to a Greek goddess, but I looked it up, and the goddess of victory, you're not even going to believe this, is Nike.
Oh.
That's the name of the goddess of victory. So Nike took their name from the goddess of victory.
Interesting.
No way. So I thought that was pretty funny. So if she's victorious, what do you think that she has overcome? What is she victorious over?
She's kind of like escaped from him controlling her.
Yeah, right? And furthermore, is it just the husband? So we're going to talk about conflict, like man versus self, that sort of thing. Do you think in this story that it's man versus self, man versus society? What do you think?
I think it's a bit of all three.
Okay.
Because
What
like,
do
Yeah.
you find is the strongest to you?
probably man versus society, I would
Okay.
say.
Okay. And can you elaborate for me?
Just because like in this time period, everyone was like, the societal norms was like, oh, the woman must bend to the man's will. The man is like the man of the house. And so the woman must do whatever the man wants and not really whatever she wants.
Okay. All right, good. And Haley, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say either self versus self or self versus society, because I agree with what Cole was saying about self versus society, but with self versus self, it's she's finding who she is.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of information about becoming a different person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I agree with both of you on both counts. Definitely a lot of internal conflict. Like, should I feel this way, and is it okay? And like fighting against the freedom that's coming. Yeah. So in this image, she's overcome society's expectations of her. She's happy even though her husband's dead. She feels free even though she maybe society would say she should feel scared, or she should feel alone, or she should feel sad, but she doesn't. And so she's overcome that. And in this moment, this one moment, this beautiful moment when she comes out and she's at the top of the stairs, she's a goddess. So she's even transcended mortality. She's immortal in her freedom. Sadly, this moment does not last long. But I can see, like, in my mind's eye, I can really see her at the top of the stairs as she has come out from the room with this epiphany that she's had, and she's just glowing with the opportunities and possibilities of all the days that are in front of her, that she gets to do what she wants to do and be free and an individual. And the very next paragraph, yeah, exactly, Cole. The first sentence, even, someone was opening the door with a latch key. Well, this is something we didn't even know until this moment. She's actually locked in the house. Her husband is the one who has the key to the house. So the house is locked and he's opening it with the key from the outside, coming in. So we come from this beautiful image of victory and freedom to an immediate image of being trapped.
That doesn't make sense. How is she locked in the house? Didn't her friends come in the house to tell her that he had died?
Yeah, and there could be more than one key, right? Like there could be a key inside, like how the old keys had the both sides. Well, I mean, normal ones do too, but
Right.
but the door is locked and he comes in with the key too. So it's just this juxtaposition of freedom versus being trapped. But you're right, Haley. Yes, they got into. um, so he did not die. And she sees him there and she immediately screams. It says there's a piercing cry. And Richards tries to like hide the husband, like jump in front of him. Oh, he's not here. That doesn't work. And then she dies, like she has a heart attack and dies, right? So what is this irony here where it says that the husband didn't die at the accident? So what is going to be the overall irony in the story?
Situational.
Situational. And what were you saying, Haley?
Just that, yeah, situational, that she dies and then they.
Right. Everybody thinks she's alive and he's dead when we start. And then we find out she's going to be dead and he's alive. So yeah, situational irony that it's the opposite. And then this last sentence, which has been set off all by itself. When the doctors came, they said she died of heart disease, the joy that kills. And so this is also our friend irony, right? But what kind of irony is this?
Dramatic irony.
Yeah, dramatic irony. What makes it dramatic irony?
Because it's like I can't explain it.
That's okay. Do you remember which one was dramatic irony, Haley?
Because it's dramatic, so it talks about something that is inanimate. Joy, it's impossible for joy to physically kill. So it's just like something that would happen. It's more of a or a metaphor.
Okay. Well, yeah, and that's a paradox, and that's really good that you bring that up, Haley. The joy that kills. That's a paradox because joy is not something that would normally kill a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But dramatic irony, coming back to that, is when the audience knows something, the reader knows something that the characters in the story don't know. So we know that she died from like sorrow, or she died from this sudden snatching away of her freedom, but the characters think she died because she was overjoyed that she saw her husband.
Right.
So that's the dramatic irony, the two different ones. And
one of the things that I don't really understand though is like, so it says that the husband's friend like telegraphed twice to make sure the husband was dead, and both times they said he was dead, but he wasn't actually dead.
right. And so if we go up to this paragraph, I think he just sent one let's see. So they received the telegram that said that there was the accident and everybody had died. And then he had only taken the time to assure himself of its truth by a second telegram. So he did send a second one, but the people who were reporting were just wrong, I guess. They were wrong twice. They just said back the same thing. Yeah, he's dead. And then he went immediately to go tell her. And see, to me, like there's something that feels a little, I don't know, like not kind in the fact that he found out that her husband's dead and he like runs to the house to tell her, your husband's dead, you know. It says he hastened there, but the author says it's out of kindness so that somebody else didn't tell her who was not going to be as considerate.
So with that, is that the real only reason the ending that they mention her heart issues? Because realistically, extreme shock could induce a heart attack. So is there a double meaning there, or is that just kind of more metaphorical?
No, absolutely. Definitely double meanings.
Okay.
But she literally has heart trouble in a literal sense. And so the author sets up in the first sentence what's going to happen in the last sentence, and metaphorically, that she has heart trouble with her husband.
Right.
Yeah, both very good points. Yeah. So what else? Anything else, guys?
I don't
No?
think so. No.
So I enjoy this story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We have we're going to do short stories for the next 3 more weeks, like 4 short stories total. And we decided that the activity that you do on Thursday, each of them is half of a quiz grade. So we'll put 2 activity averages together to make a quiz. So you can have 2 quiz grades from this.
Okay.
And then we're
How's that going to look? Do we need to do like a different one every time, or what?
I mean, we didn't actually say that, and maybe we should go back and think about it. I would prefer you do a different one every time. I would
Okay.
you want to do the same one, although I guess there's some people who probably would like that playlist one. They might like to do that one more than once, but I would suggest doing a different one, and I'll talk to the other teachers and see if, I don't know if they want to require it be different. I think it'd be more interesting for you guys though.
Right.
Something different. Yeah, so you'll get 2 quiz grades out of this unit, and we'll do an assessment at the end. So there are some students who are looking for a summative grade to help their summative grade average. So we'll do a summative for the short stories to help with that.
Cool.
All right, cool. All right, if you guys don't have any questions or any more discussion, I want to say thank you for coming. It was very nice of you to come and discuss the story with me. I haven't had anyone to talk about literature with for over a month. So I hope you guys are doing all right where you are. And of course, send me emails or remind text messages or whatever if you need any help. And our chat next week will be on Wednesday like it's supposed to be. Cool?
All right.
Bye, guys.
Same time next week, or what?
Yeah, 1 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll send a new Zoom, so it'll be the right one for Wednesday.
All right.
All right. All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. You too.